Everything we've been taught about the human story might be missing a massive puzzle piece. History books tell us a very simple, comfortable narrative. They say that thousands of years ago, our ancestors were primitive hunters who slowly, over millennia, learned how to farm, build towns, and eventually create civilizations like Egypt. It's a neat, straight line of constant progress. But there is a fascinating problem with this story. When you look closely at the oldest monuments on Earth, you don't just see the clumsy work of beginners. You see incredible scale, deep astronomical knowledge, and engineering leaps that challenge our understanding of the past. It makes you wonder, is human history really a slow, unbroken climb? Or are we looking at the rebuilt remnants of a chapter that was possibly completely lost to time?
Think about it. Mainstream archaeology shows a clear evolution in Egypt, moving from simple mud brick tombs to early stone structures over generations. Yet the sheer speed of this engineering jump continues to spark intense debate. The massive pyramids on the Giza Plateau demonstrate a level of mathematical perfection that was rarely matched in the later centuries of the kingdom. In fact, many later pyramids were smaller and much less precisely built, reflecting shifting economic priorities and religious changes over time. But this strange curve in architectural focus isn't unique to Egypt. We see unexpected spikes in ancient technology all over the globe, from the giant stone blocks of Peru to the massive temples hidden under the hills of Turkey. It leaves us with a compelling question. What happened to the ancient world?
To find an answer, we have to look not at myths, but at hard geological data. Right now, a growing number of scientists argue that around 12,800 years ago, our planet suffered a sudden, violent climate shift. This dark and turbulent period is known as the Younger Dryas. While the exact causes are still hotly debated in the scientific community, the physical evidence of a massive planetary shock is undeniable. It was a time of extreme temperature drops, rising sea levels, and widespread environmental chaos. This global crisis reshaped the environment and drastically impacted early human populations. The Younger Dryas serves as the ultimate backdrop for all the mysteries of our ancient past, suggesting that the dawn of civilization was forged in the fires of a global catastrophe.
For decades, the scientific community dismissed the idea of a sudden global catastrophe affecting early humans. But recently, researchers found something highly unusual hidden deep in the Earth's soil. They discovered a thin layer of sediment dating back exactly 12,800 years. This layer is packed with nanodiamonds, melted glass, and high concentrations of platinum. A prominent group of scientists argues that these specific materials point to a cosmic impact, suggesting a fragmented comet struck the planet. However, this theory remains a subject of intense scientific debate. Many geologists counter that these microscopic particles could have been caused by intense volcanic activity or massive prehistoric wildfires. Whichever side is right, this global layer proves that the Earth experienced a sudden extreme event that left a permanent mark on the planet.
According to the impact hypothesis, a massive comet could have broken apart in the atmosphere, with fragments slamming into the thick ice sheets covering the northern hemisphere. The resulting energy would have melted vast amounts of ice in a fraction of a second, sending massive torrents of water rushing across the continents. If early human cultures were settled along coastal lines or fertile river valleys during this period, the impact would have been devastating. Coastal settlements and early regional cultures could have been washed away, leaving little to no trace in the archaeological record. It wouldn't just be a shift in the weather, it would be a complete reset of the local environment,
forcing the surviving human populations to adapt quickly or perish in a rapidly changing world.
We can still observe the dramatic scars of this ancient era today. Across Siberia, researchers have discovered frozen mammoths with undigested plant matter still preserved inside their stomachs. While this suggests sudden and catastrophic conditions, the exact mechanism of their preservation is still heavily debated among paleontologists. At the exact same time, over 35 species of large mammals completely vanished from the North American continent. Whether this mass extinction was caused by a cosmic strike, rapid climate shifts, or human hunting remains an open question. What is clear is that the planet's ecosystem experienced a violent, sudden disruption. And remarkably, the timeline of this massive geological shakeup aligns perfectly with the world's most enduring historical legend. Let's look closely at the chronology, because this is where the mystery takes a truly fascinating turn. In his famous dialogues, the ancient Greek philosopher Plato wrote about the lost empire of Atlantis. He explicitly stated that Atlantis disappeared beneath the waves exactly 9,000 years before his time. Given that Plato lived around 400 BC, his timeline places the destruction of Atlantis roughly 11,600 years ago. Many scholars argue that Plato's dialogues were purely philosophical allegories rather than literal historical records. Yet modern geology shows that the turbulent Younger Dryas period ended with a sudden, massive rise in global sea levels known as Meltwater Pulse 1b. And guess when that happened? Approximately 11,600 years ago. It is a tantalizing correlation between an ancient philosophical text and modern climate data.
Skeptics point out that Plato used Atlantis as a political metaphor, and his geographical dimensions don't fit any real place on Earth. Still, the alignment of the dates raises a profound question. Was it just a lucky guess? Or did Plato draw from ancient Egyptian records that remembered a real event? Interestingly, flood myths appear in over 200 ancient cultures worldwide, from South America to India and Mesopotamia. Traditional anthropologists view these stories as a universal human archetype, a psychological response to the natural fear of water and changing seasons. But alternative researchers wonder if these widespread legends are actually the fractured collective memory of a real global event. They suggest that early humans witnessed the rising oceans and passed the warning down through generations.
If the rising oceans swallowed coastal areas worldwide, the impact on early human societies would have been severe. Any complex coastal cultures would have lost their primary resources, forcing survivors to move inland toward higher ground. Populations would have been scattered, migrating to places like the high Andes or the plateaus of the Middle East just to survive. In these harsh new environments, everyday life would be reduced to basic survival, forcing humanity to adapt and rebuild from the ground up. However, the knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and organization wasn't entirely lost. It was preserved, carried by those who survived the climate shift. And according to a growing body of archaeological discoveries, when the planet finally stabilized, humanity began to build something truly extraordinary. If early human groups needed to adapt after a major climate shift, they would naturally seek out stable, resource-rich regions. This brings us to the hills of southeastern Turkey. In the mid-1990s, archaeologists made a discovery here that reshaped our understanding of early human history. Under a massive artificial mound of earth, they uncovered Göbekli Tepe. It is a vast complex of stone circles featuring giant T-shaped pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons. Carbon dating places the beginning of this construction in the centuries following the rapid warming at the end of the Younger Dryas.
This remarkable chronological alignment continues to intrigue researchers worldwide. It shows that just as the global climate finally stabilized, human groups in the region began coordinating a massive, unprecedented building project that would last for generations.
The real question that puzzles historians is the scale of organization involved. According to standard historical models, the people living in this area were pre-agricultural hunter-gatherers. They had no domesticated animals, no metal tools, and no established farming. Yet engineering experiments show that moving and erecting 20-ton limestone blocks requires a highly organized workforce, deep knowledge of geometry, and hundreds of people working in unison. The site challenges the old idea that agriculture had to come before complex architecture. At Göbekli Tepe, it seems the desire to build a sacred space actually forced people to organize and settle down. It represents a sudden, dramatic leap in social complexity and engineering that forces us to rethink how quickly early human societies could innovate when driven by a shared purpose.
This mystery leads to two fascinating interpretations. Mainstream archaeologists believe Göbekli Tepe shows the incredible, untapped potential of hunter-gatherers who independently developed the skills needed to create monumental art. Alternative researchers, however, suggest this sudden complexity could reflect a transfer of knowledge from cultures that had already mastered these skills before the climate shift. What everyone agrees on is the intentional nature of the site. The pillars are covered in beautiful, complex carvings of animals, abstract symbols, and human-like figures. And then, after being used for over 1,000 years, the site was systematically covered with thousands of tons of soil. The builders intentionally buried their own creation, turning Göbekli Tepe into a massive, preserved time capsule that waited in total darkness for over 10 millennia to tell its story.
Inside the oldest stone circle of Göbekli Tepe stands a highly debated pillar known as the Vulture Stone. It features an intricate collection of animal carvings, including a vulture, a scorpion, a snake, and a small, headless human figure. A few years ago, a team of researchers proposed a controversial theory suggesting these carvings were not just artistic decorations. They argued that the animals represented ancient constellations, functioning as a specific astronomical stamp. According to their computer analysis, the positions of the stars on the pillar point to a date around 10,950 BC, the exact period associated with the Younger Dryas cosmic impact hypothesis. While this idea is heavily disputed by the site's official archaeologists, it has sparked a massive global debate about how advanced ancient astronomy might have been.
Mainstream experts firmly reject this astronomical reading, stating that the carvings are more likely totemic symbols of local tribes or mythological stories about the afterlife. They point out that the headless figure, which alternative writers interpret as a symbol of mass human loss during a catastrophe, could simply represent a ritual sacrifice, a shamanic journey, or an unfinished carving. Yet the mystery of why the complex was intentionally buried remains unsolved. Dragging thousands of tons of dirt to deliberately cover these massive stone circles required an immense amount of collective labor. Whether they were hiding a cosmic message for the future or simply closing a sacred temple that had served its religious purpose, the builders left behind a riddle that bridges the gap between the Middle East and other ancient cultures.
The architectural patterns we find at Göbekli Tepe, such as precision stone carving, astronomical alignments, and massive monumental planning, are not entirely isolated. As the global climate settled into the Holocene epoch, similar engineering marvels began appearing in different parts of the world. While mainstream science views these as independent human innovations happening naturally over time,
alternative historians argue they show a shared structural blueprint. The question of whether these ancient builders were connected by a global network or simply driven by the same universal human instincts remains one of archaeology's greatest debates. And to see just how far this engineering drive could go, we have to travel thousands of miles away, high into the rugged mountains of South America, where stones defy our expectations. High in the Andes mountains of Peru sits the ancient fortress of Sacsayhuamán. Official history records that this brilliant complex was constructed by the Inca civilization around the 15th century. When you look at the lower walls, the craftsmanship is truly breathtaking. The structure is built from massive limestone blocks, some of which are estimated to weigh over 100 tons. These stones are shaped like complex, multi-sided puzzle pieces that fit together with astonishing accuracy. There is no mortar or cement holding them in place, yet the joints are so incredibly tight that sliding a razor blade between them is practically impossible, a testament to the incredible precision achieved through patient stoneworking techniques. While the Incas were undeniably master builders, the sheer scale of moving and shaping these mountain-sized rocks using stone hammers and bronze tools continues to fascinate modern architects and engineers. For years, alternative researchers pointed to the glossy, smooth texture on some stones, claiming it was evidence of lost technologies that could melt solid rock into clay. However, modern geological analysis offers a much simpler explanation. This glassy appearance is typically the result of natural weathering over centuries or exposure to intense heat from historic wildfires. The real miracle here isn't magic, it is the unbelievable human patience and labor. Engineering experiments show that by carefully chipping away at the stone and using abrasive sand, workers could gradually create a perfect flush fit between blocks. Still, coordinating thousands of people to transport these staggering weights across steep, rugged mountain terrain without heavy draft animals remains one of the greatest logistical achievements in human history, raising questions about how early societies organized such grand projects. We find this same incredible dedication to monumental architecture at the nearby site of Ollantaytambo. At the top of a steep ridge sits the Temple of the Sun, featuring 6 giant blocks of pink granite, each weighing over 50 tons. Geologists have tracked these stones to a quarry located on an entirely different mountain, miles away. To get them here, the builders had to extract the granite, slide the blocks down a mountain, cross a rushing river valley, and pull them up a vertical cliff face. Early Spanish chroniclers recorded various local legends about the origins of these sites, which were often filtered through European interpretations over time. But regardless of the myths, the undeniable precision found in Peru mirrors a global human drive to conquer stone, a drive that is equally visible across the ocean in Egypt. To fully appreciate the monumental skills of the ancient world, we must return to Egypt. Most people focus entirely on the massive size of the Great Pyramids, but the true brilliance lies in the working of hard stone. Scattered across the Giza Plateau are large blocks of basalt and pink granite. Granite is an incredibly hard rock packed with tough quartz crystals. Alternative theories often claim that the clean cut marks and deep circular drill holes on these blocks require advanced modern machinery. However, historical experiments have shown a different reality. Using simple copper tube drills combined with wet quartz sand as an abrasive, workers could slowly but steadily cut through the hardest granite. The real mystery isn't a hidden machine, but the extraordinary patience and organization needed to execute these precise techniques on a monumental scale. Modern stonemasons who study these ancient artifacts are often amazed by the accuracy achieved by early craftsmen. While some alternative writers suggest that the sharp internal 90-degree corners found in granite blocks require computer-guided milling tools, experimental archaeology proves otherwise. By spending months carefully polishing the stone with abrasive powders and flat stones, human hands can achieve remarkable geometric precision. The early dynastic Egyptians took these techniques to their absolute limits. They inherited a deep understanding of materials and perfected methods passed down through generations. The evidence suggests that instead of using lost futuristic technologies, they utilized an unmatched mastery of human labor, turning simple physical tools into a force capable of shaping the very bedrock of their kingdom. A stunning example of this extreme dedication can be found just a few miles south of Giza, deep underground at the Serapeum of Saqqara. This is a massive subterranean gallery cut directly into the limestone bedrock. Inside its dark tunnels sit over 24 giant granite and diorite boxes, each weighing up to 100 tons. When measured with modern instruments, the flatness and squareness of these dark sarcophagi are extraordinary, showing a level of skill that challenges our assumptions about ancient tools. While alternative theories compare this work to modern aerospace engineering, experts emphasize that long-term manual polishing with fine abrasives can achieve identical results. It is a monument to what human determination can achieve when time and labor are virtually unlimited, leaving a powerful message carved into the dark stone.
Why does the idea of a lost, highly advanced pre-Ice Age society remain on the fringes of academia? The truth is, mainstream historians aren't hiding secrets. Science simply requires extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims. Changing long-established paradigms is a slow and difficult process. It takes decades of peer-reviewed data to rewrite textbooks. Today, archaeology is actively evolving, and sites like Göbekli Tepe are constantly pushing us to adjust our theories. While the evidence for a single global pre-flood empire remains speculative and circumstantial, the incredible engineering achievements of our ancestors show that we still have so much to learn about them. It reminds us that early human history was not a simple, primitive struggle, but a complex journey filled with unexpected peaks of cultural and technical brilliance.
When we step back and look at the big picture, a fascinating and humbled story emerges. We are likely not the first humans to build great things and face a rapidly changing world. 12,000 years ago, during the turbulent Younger Dryas period, ancient groups experienced massive environmental shifts that altered the course of human evolution. The survivors did everything they could to pass down their culture, their organization, and their stories. They built deep social connections at Göbekli Tepe, developed incredible stoneworking traditions in Peru, and mastered materials in Egypt. They left behind indestructible stone monuments that survived the harsh millenniums, serving as a permanent testament to human resilience and adaptation in the face of nature's greatest challenges.
This leaves us with a profound, lingering thought. Our planet is not a static, unchanging home. It is a dynamic world that has experienced massive ice ages, sudden warming periods, and shifting oceans throughout its long history. Many ancient traditions speak of deep cycles of destruction and rebirth. While these ideas are more philosophical than strictly scientific, they remind us that the stability we enjoy today is a precious window of time. The grand ruins beneath our feet stand as a quiet, powerful reminder of our shared human story. What do you think? Are these global architectural wonders the result of independent human genius adapting over time? Or do they hint at a forgotten connection in our distant past? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.